But hi, I'm Shreya,
I'm Johann.
and we are here with our next podcast. We have
Shreya,
Isabelle.
and Stephanie.
Today we're on Winging It. We're talking about, because we have the Women's Center with us today. We're going to be talking about stuff that, women go through and all the girly struggles that we have as women in today's day and age. So, so what does the Women's Center do?
So basically the Women's Center is a intersectional feminist group that focuses on making itself available to all genders, all race, all different diversities. And we really try to promote different services like providing menstrual products, we provide condoms, lube, and we also provide pregnancy tests. We also do peer support for anyone who wants to come in and just kind of talk about different issues that they have.
We also host really empowering events centered around our feminist values and obviously our intersectional feminist values. And we love to just do cute little events as well throughout the week, such as tea talks, which we're going to start off very soon. And also we're going to start doing a book club. So we have very cool activities coming up. So
Wow, that's really cool. So what do you guys do for the Women's Center?
We're both reporters.
Coordinators.
When did you start your role as the coordinator?
I think it was last term, so I'm pretty new as well to the service. So but I've had such a great experience working with the Women's Center, and When did you start?
I just started a month ago, but I've been at the Women's Center for a year and a half volunteering. I was the advocacy director there for a while, but I just thought I wanted to make more change around, so I decided to go for the coordinator. So,
Yeah. Also, my centered around my studies because I learn a lot about intersectionality and feminism in peace and conflict studies.
Okay.
So that's what really drew me to the service and wanting to apply to be a coordinator.
So what are you guys studying? So I'm guessing you're in feminist.
It's honors arts, peace and conflict studies.
Okay. And yourself?
I'm in environment, resources, and sustainability.
Oh, that's really cool. Similar to what you're doing.
Yeah,
right?
I used to be in ERS and I transferred to environment business.
Okay.
Sorry.
What's up with ERS? Why'd you move?
I think that I just found that I was learning a lot of the problems that existed and learning a lot more on-site technical work, actually going outside, going into the lakes and stuff, testing the water and all of that. And then I noticed that businesses were kind of where I wanted to focus because of how much pollution comes from textile industry, from the finance industry. And I realized if I wanted to make an impact in those spaces, I'd have to go into those spaces and kind of understand the minds of a business person. So I feel NBUS kind of gives me the quantitative data that I can use to communicate why we need to care about the environment more. And also I'm not from the Women's Center, so
You're not. You want to tell them where you are from?
so I work for WUSA as the thrift store manager, and I had been doing that since January, and so then I'm back for this term. And then I used to be the sustainability commissioner, so I started that back last August. I've been with WUSA for a year and a little bit now. We just hit my 1-year anniversary, I guess.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's weird.
Corporate girly.
Yeah. Because you've also been doing a lot of some conventions and you spoke in some things as well. Do you want to talk about that?
Of course. No, I was just saying I've been in my LinkedIn era actually. So connecting with everybody I can possibly connect with. But yeah, I've had a couple of really cool opportunities. So I went to a conference in Boston that was a green finance conference, and I got to speak in front of 1,000 people.
What was that like?
So scary, but really, really cool. I was actually the youngest attendee, actually.
Oh my gosh.
That was very
Wow.
cool, yeah. I didn't say, I guess, I'm in third year, so everybody else was master's students doing their MBAs at Yale and Harvard, and that was, they were the youngest, besides me.
So how'd you get the opportunity to speak there?
I found it on LinkedIn actually. So there's this like scholarship from this group specifically, and they cover like your airfare, your accommodation, the whole like conference attendance pass and everything. And they give you an opportunity to do like sidebar interviews, network with like professionals. So I was meeting people from like Deloitte and Stantec and KPMG and like all these really big companies, talking to them about like sustainability and like finance and the intersection of those things. And yeah, it was really, really cool. And like I got to talk to so many interesting people and just kind of understand what I wanted to do with my life. And yeah, corporate girly.
Yeah. So what did you speak about? Was it more of like a speech, or were people just asking you questions about?
We did like a panel sort of discussion, but I kind of segued into, and I wrote on my application that I've been struggling with a lot of imposter syndrome, especially being a woman, being a POC, and like a sustainable industry is like very uncommon, I think, like especially facing households. I feel like Rhea can relate to that one. Is if you're not a doctor, if you're not an engineer, your parents are kind of like, well, what's going on there? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I use that opportunity to like really make a name for myself, and but also talk about like what that feels like and what imposter syndrome looks like, seeing like a room filled with like old white men who are making decisions at like these like high places. I wanted to talk a little bit about why we deserve an opportunity, why we deserve to be heard. So I did a panel just essentially talking about that and how we can uplift like women of color and how that will transition us into a more sustainable future, I guess.
Yeah, let the women speak.
It's important too, because you have this panel, it's all men making these decisions, but you don't have a female perspective. You don't know what we want, what we're going through, which is so ironic to think of. It's crazy.
One of the biggest things I've been doing right now is actually there's an organization, they're operating out of Waterloo actually, but they are focused on making sure that Gen Z is part of advisory boards, which is a very like something I'm very, very passionate about, because I feel like we're making decisions that are like youth facing and people facing, but like our generation is missing a seat at the table when we should have the whole damn table.
That's
because like we are the face of the future, and there's all these people who don't really understand what we need because they're not consulting us, and that's like a big gap in all of these industries, is that they're not asking us what do we need and like what policies and things should we implement to support you. So I decided to do that so I can get myself on some advisory boards so I can advocate for all of us.
So where's this advocacy board?
Yeah, so they have like a ton of them. Right now, cross my fingers if I get this one, but there's a board for the National Diabetes Trust. So essentially they distribute like the money to like different organizations helping with diabetes. And I'm diabetic actually, so very meaningful part to myself, right? Like I really care about that. And a lot of people in my family are too. So advocacy for that's very important, and especially since like the way that I got my diagnosis, actually very womanly struggle, because I actually got diagnosed after having really high cortisol levels. And did you know stress can actually cause insulin resistance and make you develop diabetes?
Really?
Yeah.
I always thought like high stress prevented just like your period.
No.
I don't know what affected other things.
Yeah, so I have PCOS. So if you don't know what that is, it's polycystic ovarian syndrome. And part of the symptoms, like obviously like the basic depression, anxiety, and mood swings and all that.
Just your basic girly
things.
things.
Just like stomach issues. And yeah, so it also causes diabetes and like other really complicated things like thyroid cancer and ovarian cancer, ovarian cysts actually. So that's why I took a little break from WUSA for a little bit, is because I had to go to the hospital for that. And so very, very hard. But yeah, there's a lot of different hormonal issues that can cause like all sorts of things, and that's what it did to me. I got diabetes, and that's why I thought advocacy for myself in that space is very important, because there's a lot of people who go through that. And I think like, I forget the statistic now, but I think it's like 1 in 4 women have PCOS, and it's like, it's a spectrum, but yeah, based off of how bad it is, you just get diagnosed with more things essentially.
Man.
It's actually, you know, it's a good point that you brought up, because as women, your life is just, you are constantly going through so many changes in your body, right? Because every time you menstruate, you're going through hormonal changes, and then, you know, if you're diagnosed with something like PCOS, or even during pregnancy, your body is just constantly changing, and it's actually a lot emotionally as well that you go through, not just physically, and it's exhausting. Sometimes when I want to go to the gym, I have to like plan it around my menstrual cycle just
Oh my
because
gosh, yeah.
I'm like, I don't feel like working out when I'm on my period, or even if I want to lift, I cannot lift heavy. I don't know if y'all can relate to that.
Yeah, I also feel like there's this expectation that women can always do everything regardless of like what they're going through, and especially because we don't have the same shared experiences as males, right? But they're out there telling us that like, oh, you can do that, but really, we also have our own like cycles and need for space. So I feel like that should be definitely taken into account within our system and within the way the world works, because this system is built for the male gaze, and I think we need to be aware of that. So yeah.
So many women take like time off, like their sick days because of their period, not because they're actually sick. And it's like those two things should be segregated, because how can I control if I'm getting my period and having such intense like pain?
And I think a lot of people don't understand the severity of that. You know, I had a friend back home so I'm from Mumbai, and in school, every time she would get her period, it was so intense that she would actually have to puke. And
Yeah, me too.
she would have to skip examinations for that, and it can get really intense and really severe. And I don't think we actually talk often about this.
Yeah, and also the mental health impacts that poses, right? Is if you're constantly being like invalidated for experiencing like such drastic pains as some women do experience, it can really take a toll on your mental health. When people, especially those that maybe don't experience their period cycle, don't necessarily, they don't understand the impacts that can have on you. So
We were just talking pre-recording, like my longest period was 21 days.
That's insane.
Like, and it's just crazy, and it's not like a light, light flow. Like it's like
No.
heavy.
Oh.
I change my pad like at least 6 times a day.
wow.
It's and I use the like biggest one possible, like the number 5, like all nighter, like long one, and like it's like so much. It's so heavy. But no, I completely relate to that. Like I have fainting spells. Obviously it affects my blood sugar when I'm losing so much blood, so then my diabetes all gets out of whack. I have so many like either cravings, I have so many mood swings. Just ask all my friends like how angry I get at like little things. Like if I drop my keys on the floor, I just start crying because I'm like, why did that just happen? And like even my mom, like she knows that when I'm on my period, she cannot speak to me that week. Like we just can't have a conversation because I get so frustrated, and then I'm always tired. I was just falling asleep in the thrift store like 10 minutes ago. I'm just exhausted right
Well,
now.
it's totally valid to feel that way. So.
It's really hard. No one does talk about these things.
Yeah, and then even just when birth control comes into play, it's worse. At least for me, it was so bad because it really affected my mood. I was so depressed, and all I did was cry all the time. And for the longest period of time, I didn't know that I was so depressed because of birth control. So I didn't know what was going wrong, and I'm never doing that again.
I think the problem with birth control is like it's not very well researched. Like it has come a long way from what it's been, but it's not up to the standards that we need. Like you see those ginormous papers, like you could literally sleep with like a blanket, right? Like it's
List of symptoms.
yeah. Like it's just there's so much, and I'm looking at all these things, and I'm like I was talking to my boyfriend about Accutane one day, and he was like listing all the symptoms and Accutane, and I was like, you really wanna challenge me? Like I have like all these things, right? But it's hard too because like so many women have irregular menstrual cycles, which is what I was going through, and the only other option could be birth control, right? So it's like, do you put yourself through all of that pain of not knowing like what you're gonna go through on your menstrual cycle, or are you gonna go through the pain of like going through birth control and having to figure out what's like, it's a trial and error process. Like there's so many out there, right?
And going to the doctors and stuff, whenever you tell them that you have these issues or you're struggling with your like menstrual cycle, okay, take birth control.
Yeah, they always
Literally,
birth
yeah.
control.
Birth control is always the answer apparently to all your problems.
Literally, even when I went to the hospital, like every time I told them what my symptoms were, I've been to the hospital so many times in the last couple of years, done every single test and all that, but they still will be like, yeah, are you pregnant? I'm like, no. And then they're like, okay, well, you might just be having like some abdominal pain. Maybe it's cramps or something. And they just sent me home. And then little did I know I had this cyst on my ovary that was ready to explode.
That happened to my my friend here as well. She had severe abdominal pain. She went to get checked and they're like, oh, you must be, you know, getting a period or something, just cramps. Sent her home. And that pain became unbearable. She had to go back again. She had a huge cyst in her uterus. And then she had to like surgically remove that. Which is crazy because you let it get to that point as well.
I saw this meme the other day. It was really funny you say that. I saw this meme the other day and it was like a bunch of like male doctors going through it. It's like, okay, these are all the symptoms. So like what could it possibly be? And then it's like, well, she doesn't have this, so it can't be that. Well, you keep forgetting that she's a woman. So that's the problem. It's stress, it's hormones, that's the answer, right? So it's almost like it's like, you know, and that's another thing too, like medical, like it's just, it's not where it should be. And I feel like a lot of women do experience that like stereotype of when you go in to get assessed, it's not really, you feel like what you're feeling is not being, like, it's not being expressed in the way that you want it to, and people are not taking it as the way you want it to, right?
Like it's not being taken seriously.
Exactly.
Right? Your concerns, even if you're in the greatest pain of your life sometimes, it feels like it just isn't being validated.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are so many other issues that come into play with that, right? Because you have all these things that you're dealing with emotionally, and then you have people, you know, medical professionals telling you, oh, just don't stress so much, be calm, don't be this anxious. But
Keep
the thing
calm,
is,
carry on.
Peace,
love, happiness.
But it's like I am anxious because I have this thing, and I sometimes feel like I'm just stuck in this loop.
It causes like a domino effect,
Yeah.
right? Like you get symptoms that say you have actual pain, but then you develop stress, and then it's just an endless cycle.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
will this ever end? No. When I was in my teens, I had a lot of acne. I struggled a lot with that, and that's what every person told me, like unsolicited
Drink
advice.
water.
Oh my, eat healthy, do this, do that. I'm doing those things. This is hormonal, and
Yeah.
it's also beyond my control at this
Also
point.
genetic, you know,
Yeah.
like things you can't control.
So you have people giving you all this unsolicited
And then it
advice.
leads to this expectation of like women having to be perfect, right? To follow all of these
Social
like
media.
remedies and things like that, when you can't really achieve that necessarily.
Which is, again, like, if your hormones are constantly going through so much, you are gonna have acne, you are going to break out. You cannot look a certain way all the time. You cannot not be bloated all the time, right? You cannot not have a breakout here and there. And I think we really need to just normalize those things, because we're human, we're gonna have those things. And it's crazy how much pressure also just media and
It's
movies have put on
The
us.
thing is too, it's so hard to normalize something that's been so embedded into us for so long. Like it's just like ever since there was such thing as beauty standards, and there's always been, it's like, you know, way back in the day, it's like, okay, you need to look a certain way, but it's hard to break from that, right? Like, you know, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, one day you think, I'm beautiful, I look amazing, and then the next day you're like, I hate myself, I don't like this part. Like, it's a normal thing, right?
It's also like a marketing ploy, right?
Yeah.
Because if they don't market it that way, then no one's gonna buy makeup, no one's gonna buy like clothes that look that way.
And also, if there's no shift in the marketing campaign, right, like the shift of the ideal body, then it doesn't stay as relevant, right? So there's this constant change of like, what's the new trend and what's in order to like continuously make an unrealistic standard.
You see that with our like biggest celebrities. Think like Kim Kardashian, like Kylie Jenner. Like the second that BBLs were no longer in style, who went and got them removed? They did. Then they started marketing these like flat tummy tees when it was like time to become like super skinny, like not be like curvy and thick. Then they were like, okay, we need to start promoting those things. Then Kim Kardashian's body came back in style. Okay, now we need to put Skims on our bodies. So that way we like really look accentuated and curvy and really good in dresses. No rolls. Don't want any like stretch marks or anything to be showing. Like making trends out of women's bodies is just, it's become so tiring, because like I see people going to make these like cosmetic changes to things I didn't even know I should be insecure about. I found out what hip dips were during the pandemic, and then I saw people were getting like
Chloe
Botox.
Ting exercises.
Yeah, people were getting Botox into their hips in order to like reduce the look of their hip dips, or even like in like your armpits, in your chin, like removing your buccal fat so you start having more cheekbone. Like I was just like, what?
I heard it was a normal, like my friends from Iran, and I heard it's a normal thing for your parents to buy you a nose job for your 16th birthday.
Really?
Yeah. Like that's the thing.
That's a Eurocentric beauty standard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That was what I was going to talk about next, is that growing up in India, I think you would relate to that. Is
They're
that-
lovely.
Yes, you have skincare brands that are targeted to darker skinned women to make you look more fair, because that's
Skin
more
bleaching
appealing.
We had soap in the Philippines that we
Uh-huh.
would buy that would make us lighter, because like the lighter skin you are, it's more like the more richer you are, the more like
There's this one
Western.
nursery rhyme that Indian moms usually sing. It's like chubby cheeks, like dimpled chin, and in the song they say rosy, like a rosy.
They talk about
complexion
like
is
having
clear.
blue eyes
Yeah.
and.
But you're
yeah,
singing it to Indian children, like brown eyes, bro.
Why so many women, including myself, and you can talk more about your experiences, we grew up thinking that we just looked pathetic because we were told that European beauty standards are ideal beauty standards, and if you don't fit into that, you're just ugly.
Our moms always say don't go outside like in the summer because then you're gonna get too tan. Like I had so many relatives saying those things to me. Even when I was in India, it's like 40 degrees outside. What am I gonna do? I'm supposed to cover up, but I'm also not supposed to get tan, because if I get too tan, then nobody's gonna think I'm pretty anymore because I'm too dark.
It's amazing that you guys say that, because in North America, it's like the opposite. Like you, like I always feel like people tell me I look like a ghost because I'm white and I don't have a tan. And it's like, hey, what do you want? You know, like
Yeah.
you guys are having the problem where it's like you can't be too tan, but then I'm not tan enough, right?
Yeah.
It's never enough.
It's never enough.
Nobody is ever the perfect complexion, and just this constant reinforcing of different standards is just never ending cycle.
Because you just want what you don't have, you know? So
Everybody
like,
does.
yeah, so in our countries, you want to be lighter, have lighter skin, you want to have this type of hair, and then in your country, in Canada, it's you want what you don't have, what we have, because it's things that you don't experience that make it more desirable, I guess.
I think what's more frustrating about all of those beauty standards is that so many of those are perpetuated by men. And
Victoria's Secret was founded by a man.
Yeah.
I just found that out.
It's, so many of those beauty standards are about, fitting into what men would think is pretty and attractive, and fitting into those standards, which is again crazy to me, because why? Just also as a society, right? Like, how did we get here? It's always been a man's world, and I hate that.
Funny you say Victoria's Secret. Lululemon, same thing.
No way.
Yeah, Chip Wilson, another guy, one of the richest people too. He lives in Vancouver. He has a giant house, the most expensive house in Vancouver, I'm pretty sure. But Lululemon had that huge controversy because their leggings were like see-through and they were like really, really tight, and people were just like,
Must be a man.
there's a pattern here. Like, why? And if we think about like, has anyone been to Victoria's Secret and seen the sizing? You go in and you can be like a B cup, and they'll be like, actually, you're a quadruple D. Here you go.
I was looking at the mannequin one day, and it was like I think it was like a D36, and I was looking at the mannequin. I'm like, I'm a D36. There's no way in hell I look like that. Everything is like it's all figured to like exactly how they want it to look. So it's like if you don't like looking like this, don't shop here.
Yeah. The
And
sizing makes no
it's-
sense.
No, true. Sizing doesn't make sense, but also the style of the bras. You always see like demis, which are like okay, some people are gonna fall out of that. Like, let's have some coverage in there, but they don't have anything with coverage. It's all just like meant to look like sexy, and like I like wonder sometimes, is that like an empowerment thing, or is that just because like men like it that way?
I think it depends on who's designing the product and
Yeah.
who created the whole brand idea. And in this case, it's a man, so we could say that it's through that perspective. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because there's literally a majority of brands that you find out there, like Versace, Louis Vuitton, like they're all founded by men. Like pretty much, there's very few fashion brands and cosmetic brands that you can find are actually founded by women. So like when they're designed, it's designed based on like who their models are and what they think are ideal beauty standards. So it's not based on, you know, what is the norm in society, what do people normally look like, right?
I feel like it's just misconstrued of like what are women supposed to look like? We look in our heads and we're just like, okay, influencers, let's compare ourselves to them. And I know for me, it's like been so detrimental because it's like all of a sudden it's become let's like wear. Have you guys noticed that everything is a crop top now?
Yes.
Suddenly it's like wearing less is like supposed to make us feel good, which is fine, and you can choose to do that. But like it's like those, I don't know, I feel like clothes are just getting smaller and we're just supposed to deal with it. But like I feel insecure in my own body because I don't look the way that society is telling me to look. So I can't be wearing those things, and I just feel like wildly insecure if I'm not. Like, I don't know, if I ever pass an Aritzia girlie on the street or something, I look at them and I'm like, I wish I could be you. And I hate that I feel that way because I want to be like, wow, you look so beautiful, and I am too, and continue walking, and I don't. I never feel better. I don't know, even changing rooms and things, like I'm trying on all these pants that are supposed to fit because they say that they're my size and they're not. Like, why am I
Like
an
sizes are-
XXXL in something and then an
In
extra small?
every
Like,
store, you're always a different size. So, like,
Yeah.
I walk into a store, like, I know what size I'm in this store, and this store, and this store, never the same.
Even some brands, like there's no size that actually fits me. Like I will try like 10 sizes and it just doesn't fit my body shape.
That's
I'm
all
like,
for
what
me.
is this? So
even makeup, actually, going back to that conversation we were just having earlier, like the fact that we feel like we need to do all these things to be pretty. Makeup has gotten so expensive. Why is a drugstore like Shoppers Drug Mart charging like $20 for like blush? Like, why is it $20? That's like an
Inflation.
hour of my pay.
I was gonna say
Inflation.
I just read an article that prices have increased, like inflation rates in Canada have increased by 4%. So maybe a part of it is that.
Our pay is not increasing with that though.
Yeah, I know.
Minimum wage is just not on par.
also just in general, like all female products are just way more expensive than male.
That I agree.
It's the
Wait,
pink
like
tag.
menstrual
even
products.
something as basic as a haircut, it's so much cheaper for men when you compare it to women's haircuts. Which is
Tell me why it became normal that all of a sudden I literally went and got like just the most basic nails done, and she was like, your total's $124, and I was like, this used to be $30. Thank you. These are presents. This is my alternative actually because I cannot afford that. But yeah, you're right. Haircuts too, like $80 for a haircut is very standard now. I just start chopping my own hair when I have
Me
my own
too.
mental breakdowns. I'm just like, okay.
I mean, sister, do it. I'm like, I do not want to spend that much on a haircut. Just chop it off.
But again, it just like makes us start feeling bad about ourselves.
Or it's crazy. I go back to India and get a haircut, which is like I'm already paying for flight tickets,
Yeah.
but that haircut is somehow so cheaper for
You
me.
could do a full beauty service for the same price that it costs here.
I just force my mom to cut my hair. Just come over to my mom's house, she'll cut you all of your hair, it's fine.
Oh my gosh, even getting your brows done. Like, there's so many things. I just saw this TikTok recently of this girl getting ready for a date, and she's like, the guy has to pay for the date because I'm gonna walk you through step by step how much I pay for just to like look nice for this, like look appealing to this man.
So it's expensive to be a girl, is what this is
So
coming
expensive
to.
to
Just
be
to
a
show
girl.
up, it's
Mhm.
expensive.
I didn't like men don't even know the things that we have to do to just look the way we do on a daily basis. Like okay, this is actually a really like something I've never talked about, but another thing that I have with PCOS is I grow hair everywhere. Like when I say everywhere, I grow hair all over my face, like my cheeks, my chin, like wherever. I grow all over my arms, all over my legs, and I literally have to shave. Like I need to use my little like micro
You know, like
those
very
razors
big,
are,
yeah.
and shave that off. I need to do my eyebrows, like, and then lash extensions a bunch of people have, or I wear falsies, and then I do all this like full face, cake face of makeup just to feel like I look like everyone else, and I still don't feel like that.
And, yeah, and a lot of people think that like, oh, then why don't you just not do that? But it's an expectation for women to show up and look a certain way.
That's also confidence, right? Because you're so used to seeing what you see that when you don't look that way or you don't feel put together.
I think makeup is an it's an okay thing to have. Like I understand that it's like, you know, some people have too much makeup and some people haven't. I don't like agree with like how people judge that, but it's an empowerment thing, and no, it should not be expensive. Like I know some some homeless shelters, they actually provide makeup as one of their hygiene products, because it's a thing that makes people feel beautiful. That's like and that's a basic thing that people should feel all the time, right? So, you know, there's like people do complain about like, oh, like makeup brings unrealistic beauty standards, which it does in a way, but at the same time it's what makes you feel beautiful.
True.
Right?
You were just saying like we don't have to if we don't want to. Last week when I was working here, I had 3 different guys compliment my nails and then mention how they were like grown out.
What?
Yeah, just randomly, like, and nothing of the topic came up. Like I was just folding their clothes, I handed it to them, and I went like this, and I like put their clothes down. They looked at my nails, they're like, oh, those look, like, oh, like those look nice. They're a little grown out though. I was like, okay, pay for them. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, what
like,
do you
why
care?
are you bothering me with that?
Also, why would you say that?
No, exactly. Like, why? When did I even ask?
I
you?
didn't even notice. Oh my gosh, it's not like they're on my body.
Yeah. I was like, sorry, babe. I'm too busy working, trying to make a living, than I am taking care of the fact that my nails are grown out. Like, that means I have to go. They don't even understand that costs like $30 in itself. Going to get your acrylics removed costs like $30.
Now that you say this, and when I think about this, never have I
Ever.
looked at a man and thought about any of this.
Whoa, bro, your hair is a little grown out there, isn't it? Go see your barber sometime soon.
I've never said anything, I don't know, I'm not thought of that.
I mean, we do know that there are expectations on guys, but I don't think it's talked about as much as it is on girls. Because I'm sure that
It's not expressed enough because men don't talk about that stuff too. Like we are, it's expected that men talk about it to us, but like not talked about to them, but only in private type thing, right? So.
I don't know, I've noticed it a lot, especially when I go out. Like, if I'm dressed up, I feel like I look really good. Somebody always has something to say. Like, I've never been on a night out ever where I haven't had someone comment something about me. Like, whether it's like, oh, like, your shoes are dirty. And when I say someone, I mean men. But like, oh, your shoes are dirty. Oh, well, like, you have a stain on your pants. Oh, you have this. Oh, you have that. It's like, I never looked at you enough to even give a like, I just never noticed those things. And it's the fact that they're so conditioned to noticing that, but also to just like tell us. Like, it's almost like just like a power trip almost. Like, they look at us and they like want to say those things just to establish some sort of dominance.
I don't understand where the audacity comes from. Like, I don't understand it. Like,
Society.
If I were to say that to a man, I'd probably get attacked, you know? But would a man get attacked? I don't think so.
Which is also, I think, an interesting thing, because just being a woman as well, you have these thoughts that if I do this, what are the repercussions that I would have to face? Is this man going to retaliate? Is something going to happen? Am I going to be a victim of something?
Oh my god, that's a really important one. I don't know how many times I've like just gone like either like gone on a date or like done something I didn't want to do just because I felt like they would retaliate or get angry or like react in a way that I would be scared. I've done that so many times, and it's just because like I do it out of self-preservation, but then I'm sitting there and I just like regret it, or I feel bad after. I'm like, why did I even like put myself in that situation in the first place, or why did I even entertain that? And it's like just like victim blaming is so common, so prevalent. And again, it's like that power trip. It's like that just unhealthy dynamic that we have.
It's like you're expected to be nice, and like if you react any other way, it's like, you know, like I find often like I sometimes like I do know a lot of people, and I sometimes I give out my Instagrams, and like I'm a little more hesitant giving that out to like men rather than women, because I'm like, well, what if, you know, what if I feel like it's becoming an uncomfortable situation? And it often does sometimes. Like, I do get like DMs, and it's like, oh, you're like, I wasn't expecting you to react that way. Like, I just wanted to provide a friendship or like some guidance, but it turns into more. And you're like, okay, I didn't mean that, but at the same time, it's like, okay, so what do you do now? Because you don't want the situation to escalate, but like, you know, you still have to assert your dominance, right?
It's another thing. Like being friends with guys is so hard because you never know what their intentions are. You know, there's always something that you don't know about, right? Because are they just after friendship or?
I think it's also, I've had so many people just lie. Like they make their intentions clear by being like, oh, I just want to be friends with you, and then afterwards they're just like, haha, just kidding, and they're sliding into your DMs when you post like a pretty photo of yourself. And like, I want my online community to be like safe. I want to be able to post and just like feel comfortable and like good in my own skin. And then when I post, it's like I get this flood of DMs from just like, it's either really negative things, just like insulting me or whatever if I'm not responding to those messages, or it's just like too much. They're saying way too much, or they're like being creepy and being weird. And I find like even within my jobs, I was just having a discussion with my manager yesterday. Within some of my jobs, I find like people like will book, like I do some consultancy things on campus. People will book appointments with me just to hit on me. People will be walking past the thrift store, they'll come in, like relentlessly complimenting me, trying to get my number, like something, and I'm like, I'm working. Like, I'm not here for like you to like for your entertainment or anything like that, but also like I'm in a position where I cannot like necessarily shut that down in a rude way like I normally would, because I'm at work and I have to be professional. And like I think that just, it's so hard. I don't know what to do with that, what to say with that. I just think that that's just another struggle that I find all the time. Is just like people have been so unnecessary.
It's kind of demeaning in that way too,
Yeah.
because you're there in your workplace doing your job that you know you worked hard for, and then people just come in and guys just come in just to like power trip all over again.
I have a story for you actually. So my mom, she works at a pretty big bank, and she was up for a promotion, and she was really excited. She did her interview, and then a couple other people interviewed, and her manager at the time came up to her and was like, I would have given you the job, but you don't wear makeup to work. You don't like dress, like wear like dresses and things. So, and like literally verbatim said, like, I'm going to give this position to, and then named the other person, because she knows how to dress for our clients. And of course the clients happen to all be men, and all of the clients loved that girl because she was really young and she was really pretty. And so my mom did not get the job. And this is a very big, prominent bank, like, and she deals with that on a daily basis.
Horrible, yeah.
I have a story actually that it was with my mom as well, and it was, I mean, I was 3 years old or something, and my mom wanted to start her career, and she applied to this job, and they during the interview told her that, oh, I don't think you can do this. Why? Oh, because you are married and you have kids. But my dad, he can go up and do this. He is married, he has 2 kids. So that, difference that, oh, you're a woman, you have these responsibilities, so I cannot offer you this job because I don't think you are capable of handling these things. But you as a man, I think you can do it. Your primary responsibilities are not to be present to your children or be a caregiver. That's your wife's job. And I think that dynamic and that mentality, I think that's so problematic.
Yeah, something that's really common in the career advising field is that if you're a woman, and like this happens a lot of people will ask like family planning, like if they just see like you're at the age where you can get married or get pregnant, they'll just be like, oh, like are you planning on having kids or anything like that? My mom has been asked that question so many times, because then they know that you're going to go on maternity leave. But like paternity leave exists, like it's just those things are not thought about, because like you said, they don't expect that the man is going to do that. That's a woman's job. And like I love my dad to pieces, but like even him, like it's really hard dismantling in like Desi households. Is like sometimes he'll say that like he like focuses as like the provider, and I'm like, well, mom is providing too. She's working and she's taking care of the entire family. And my mom sacrificed so much within like her career. She had so much prospect, like moving here. She had so much experience, and she sacrificed it so she could raise my brother and I and give us the best life possible. And like she's still working. She's a bad bitch. She's working corporate girly. Like she's doing what she needs to do. But she sacrificed so much just so my dad could advance ahead and could take care of us financially. And like again, who's applauding her for that? People are looking at my dad and being like, wow, like you got this promotion, like you're, oh my gosh, look at this nice car that you got. But nobody's looking at my mom and saying, wow, you raised your kids so well.
I have a very similar story to that, because my parents actually both immigrated here when they were, well, my dad was younger and my mom came later on, but they didn't have much money, right? So they focused on my dad's like career and building him up. And so she would take care of like being like a kind of like a secretary, like helping him to succeed his goals. But it's just because they didn't have money and they couldn't both reach their career potential. But she should also be, thankful for like giving birth to me and taking care of like us and like allowing us to grow up into a privileged world. And I just feel like it's kind of unfair that there's like this, this like double standard, right? Where my mom is viewed as, oh, not working hard enough, or she didn't achieve a career and like take care of a family. She just took care of her family. Like, what is that double standard? And why can my dad just be successful and not have that?
That also brings this other point where I've heard this so much, at least, in India, growing up, heard so many stories where people, especially families that are going through financial struggles, and when they have two children, and if one of them is a man and if one of them is a woman, and if they have to they make this choice that I will only send my son to school.
Even if the son is younger and the daughter is older.
And I will not even provide that basic fundamental opportunity to my daughter. Why? Because she's my daughter. Maybe just assume that not as capable as a son.
And get her married to someone rich.
Yes, because she's going to get married to someone and she's going to go to another family eventually. So and it's sad because these are fundamental things that everyone should have access to. Something like education is so basic, and it shouldn't be dependent on what gender you are. It should be accessible to you regardless.
Yeah, I feel like,
sorry. I remember listening to a podcast about women in science, and it's very common in the academic fields for women to go on maternity leave and not finish their academic careers. And it's like, so it's expected for me to go on break and not be able to come back, because often they'll get kicked out of their PhD programs or their master's programs if they don't come back and do it in a certain time. Well, if the person really is good at what they do, you really should look at that part rather than, like, anyway, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like this has a really good message. Like, what can we tell our dads, our brothers, our boyfriends, like our partners, our male friends? Like, how do we tell them how to support us? Like, what can they do to break down and dismantle these standards?
To be honest, I think that's a really hard question to answer, but I think it starts from childhood. So the way that they're raised. So I think just the whole patriarchal system needs to start from somewhere to be reversed, if that makes sense. So I think from a young age, like the mom or the dad, whoever's the main caregiver, or if they're both the caregivers, should just be very aware of what they're saying to their kid and how they're conditioning them into the world and treating them as equally as possible. I know it's not necessarily possible to do that, especially with all these systems of oppression existing in this world, but I think just being as mindful and aware as possible of what you're teaching your kids and how you're treating them and what you're teaching them, that's what I would say.
I think there's a really nice moment that I had when I was watching the Barbie movie. I feel like Barbie was a very important thing for a lot of women because it brought us together. Like, that entire week that I saw Barbie when it first released, every girl I saw, like, I was in the club bathroom, everyone would be like, hey Barbie, hi Barbie, and it was just like, it was so cute and it was so precious that we had something to like bring us together like that. But I remember, like, when I was watching the movie, and they had that monologue about like how hard it is to be a woman. Like I don't know if any of you saw it. Yeah. She had this whole monologue for like 2 minutes about how hard it is to be a woman, and the entire theater was like dead silent. And I was watching it with my boyfriend, and he like leaned over and he's like, "I'm so sorry," and I was just like, "Wow," like, oh my gosh. And like I literally just like started tearing up for a second, like not because of like what she was saying, because when I was hearing it, I was like, I already knew this. I knew that this was true. Like you're just repeating something that I've heard like my entire life and thought my entire life. But there were so many men in that theater afterwards walking out like hugging their like partners, or like brothers hugging their sisters and things like that, being like, I'm so sorry that you go through these sorts of things, or like, wow. And it just sparked like such a good conversation. And I feel like that's what we're missing, because there's all these like initiatives from the Women's Center that I see, and like these feminist rallies and like these protests, and then like Take Back the Night is coming up. I want to see how many men are reposting that on their stories. I want to see how many men are showing up.
We need more male allies for these causes.
Because there are allies, but they don't say it out loud, and like
they don't vocalize.
Anything. Or if you hear your friend making a rude comment about a woman that's like unwarranted and unnecessary, I've heard so many comments about like just weight and just like appearance and things. Like, are you stopping your friend from saying that? What are you doing to dismantle stereotypes? You can't just say that you support women and you support women's rights, but then just fail to do so in like everyday applications of that, especially when you're aware of your circle of influence and who those people are. Like if you're not dismantling it within your stereotype, within your groups, like what are you doing?
Sorry.
Good.
Okay, I just wanted to say, like, it is definitely an issue where people do not speak up if there's a situation when someone is being insulted and there's just a male presence there and they don't say anything. The problem with that is because, and this is kind of something we also focus on at the Women's Center, is there's not a lot of, like, generations have been, they're hurt. Like, it's really hard to take away or unlearn what you've learned. And, you know, a lot of men don't know how to express themselves, and that's something that kind of boils over onto us, right? So it's like, you know, you expect them to, but they also don't know how to do that because they were never taught that either. So it's understanding where they're coming from and being able to teach them how it's like, okay, that happened, but like, you know, if it happens again, like I would like a little more support, and tell them that next time, right?
Yeah, so I just want to say about your point about how standing up for women is really important, because one time I was walking down the street and this guy kept staring at me and like looking at like my cleavage area. Like I had like a normal shirt, but like he kept staring at me, and I was like,
Even if I didn't have a
normal shirt, it shouldn't matter, right? But like regardless of what I was wearing, I was like, why is he staring at me, right? And also that was me conditioning myself right there. I just put it out there, like that's how women think. They're like, oh, maybe my shirt was too low or whatever. But like this other guy just comes up and he's like, he yells at the other one, and I was like, wow, I love this man. And he goes, stop staring at her, and he yells. And then he like walks away, scurries away. And I was like, wow, that was the first time something like that has ever happened to me in my life. And I was like, I wish I could see this more often. Like, you don't necessarily have to like go out of your way to put yourself in harm's way, like yelling or like things like that. But maybe just being like standing up for a woman, or like taking her to the side, or like, you know, helping her get away from this man who's staring at you. It could be the right way to go about it. So.
I was walking down that reminded me of such an important story. I was walking down King Street one day, and I was with one of my friends, and there was these two guys that were following us, and they were trying to follow us home. And we had no idea what to do, because there were so many people on the street, but like they were like much further than us, and the only group that we could approach was this group of like men. And we were like, okay, 2 men following us, giant group of men right in front of us. We're gonna go with the giant group of men. And I walked up to them and I was like, hey, my friend and I feel really unsafe because those guys are following us. Can we just like stand and just pretend to have a conversation with you for a couple minutes so that they leave? and these guys literally huddle with us, and they're like, we're gonna keep you safe. Like,
Aw.
shout out to those guys, because like genuinely, they spent like half an hour talking to us, making sure that we were okay, and then they started walking us like back to my place and just like tried to get those guys to leave. One guy even pretended to be like dating me, so then that way like those guys would be like, okay, like they're like taken or whatever. But they talked to us and they were like I'm so sorry, like they're doing that, and they're like, you're going through that. And then like when those guys kept following us, they started yelling at them, and they were like, bro, like get away from them, what's wrong with you, like why are you following them home and just like calling them out, embarrassing them on the streets. And like that's what I need, that's what we all need. We need men to start noticing these situations, or like if you're even like signaling to one of them or something, like just we need you to show up for us and support us and like protect other women. We always say girls supporting girls, but I want guys supporting girls too. Like,
Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because there's actually a program that I found out about at Ontario Tech, and they have it's a volunteer program, and men are stationed throughout the university. And what it is you can, I believe it's like an app you can download or something, but you can request to have someone walk you home. So there's different, if you're closest to one person that's stationed, you can like visit them and they will walk you to wherever you need to go on campus. It's usually males that do it, so it's just like one of those things where it's like it's a step closer to like, you know, they want to assist, and and it's also a thing that like, you know, institutions and universities need to acknowledge as well, because a perfect example of what just happened was, you know, the incident at Haggie Hall, and it's like people did not feel safe, and you know, and there was no safe buttons around, and that's something that I think that the university definitely needs to implement for sure, because unfortunately things like that, they're gonna happen, and as much as people hate to say it, it's gonna happen. So in order to take those precautions ahead of time as an institution and as like male identifying individuals, you know, we need to acknowledge that there needs to be change that occurs in these places, right?
I like how we're talking about really big, wide movements, but also you can also start small, like calling out your friends as well. Like guys, I mean not you guys, but like males calling out their male friends. Because I was in one of my friends, she was in a friend group of guys, and it was revealed that one of them was like over-sexualizing all of them, basically, all the girls in that friend group. And then when I called him out, all of the guys kind of just like, they knew it was wrong, but because he was their friend, they were defending him. So it's that mentality that like, oh, we're friends, I need to protect my boy, you know? But that's not what that is. If you want to protect your boy, you gotta educate your boy.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true. Yeah, I think defending that is not taking anyone anywhere. Yeah, you need to educate them, and you need to tell them why that's a problem. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like berating them or aggressively or violently being like, how dare you do this, but also having a conversation about why this is wrong. Like you need to understand why this is problematic as well. And I think education is also an important thing, you know, just talking about these experiences and why this is wrong from a younger age, like you mentioned, I think definitely helps. I think that's something a lot of households lack as well, because we don't talk about it at all. A lot of people also don't grow up knowing these things. So
I'm thinking there was this one incident that happened at one of the residences that I lived at, and like it boiled down to like having sensitivity training done for all the people who were involved, and it was specifically a training that was talking about rape and assault and trigger warning.
Oh dear. Okay.
And when they were doing the training, there were two people who weren't taking it seriously. They were making like rape jokes the entire time, and then but they acted as if like they weren't part of the problem, was what they were acting like, when they were in fact part of the problem. And during it, they took a Be Real and posted it, and in the caption made a joke about rape. And like seeing things like that, and like again on campus there's so many situations where we feel unsafe just because like people just don't take these things seriously. I notice that they do only when it directly affects them. If their sister is affected, if their girlfriend is affected, if their best friend is affected, then people start to notice and start to want to care. But like there's so many situations and so many instances like that, which is like that shouldn't have to happen in order for you to understand why it's a bad thing.
It all boils down to respect, you know? Like you shouldn't have to like someone, like a girl in order to respect her. And like that was this conversation that I had with this one guy who was like, oh, well I respect you because I like you. I'm like, no, that's not how it should be. You should just respect me because I'm a human being and not because you're interested in me in any way.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, so. Oh my god, that's weird. And like, I don't know how do you think like that?
Right?
That I will only be nice to you and show you basic decency because I'm interested in you. And
then it makes
I
it
need to be a
seem
nice
like
person just
and to
because I
have
like
this
you.
thought process that you do not need to be a basic decent human being to anyone else. Why? Like that's so strange.
Like, why is it that I only have value when I look a certain way, when I talk a certain way, when my personality is a certain way that is, you know, like it's enticing to you? And why is that when I have value, and why does that garner your respect? You know, when it should just be because I am me, you know, I'm a person.
Because I think what it is meeting that expectation of the male gaze and what they want you to be, if that makes sense. So I think just breaking down that stereotype of what they want us to be is the way to go about it.
I think it's also like changing the way that we talk to each other is very important too. Like I don't want to just tell a woman that she's beautiful. I want to tell her that she's smart. I want to tell her that she's the kindest person I've met, or like so gracious or welcoming or like respectful, and just like all of these qualities and these competencies. I feel like we need to just do more ourselves to just like break that down and support one another and make each other feel like heard and feel seen.
I think compliments from girls as well, they just mean so much more. Like when a guy calls me pretty, I'm like, okay, but when it's a girl, it's like, oh, she knows what she's talking about. Like she knows how much like I took time to take out of my day to look this way, and she recognizes that, so it means so much more coming from a girl than as a guy.
And I feel like it's so important for women not to go against each other in trying to appease someone or something, especially that. I think we should just be empowering each other all the time.
Compliments are not like because of attractiveness, they're because of admiration. And that's a really big thing. Like whenever I compliment women, I'm like, oh my god, I look up to you, you inspire me, like I'm obsessed with you. Do you know how many girls on campus whose Instagrams I stalk being like, you're so beautiful, you're so perfect, I hope you know it. Like, you know, and I wish we talked about those things more, and like people knew how much we appreciated each other, but I think we're just like so scared and so conditioned to like behaving a certain way with one another that we don't appreciate each other enough, and we don't like.
I almost feel like with other women I have like much deeper connections and relationships because we understand this like inherent struggle. And if we educated men more on this, maybe they would be able to feel our struggle to some degree at least and be able to help us more. So
I think oh true. Okay, yeah. I was just gonna say, like, even this is a really out there topic, a very deep topic, but I noticed a pattern with men, like when you tell them like disclosures for like assault or anything like that and their reaction, it's always like action oriented. It's not empathy oriented. It's like, okay, what did you do about it? Did you tell someone about it? Did you do this? Did you do that? But like when I'm telling you something like that, something really personal, I'm looking for you to be like, I'm so sorry you went through that. How can I help you? How can I better support you? Like, what can I do for you? Instead of
what did you do?
Yeah, and like pushing us to disclose more, like tell them more.
Like jumping to conclusions
on
how to solve the issue.
Yeah.
When we just need to talk to someone about it first. Like
we just want them to be listeners.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think this is a great point in our podcast to end it off. Thank you so much for coming and speaking with us. This was a lot of fun. This episode has been like a long time coming too. This has been in the works for, I think, the very this was because I thought about this. Like when I started making this podcast, I was like, oh, we should do like a girl talk because that'd be so fun. And then 3 months later, here we are.
3 months.
3 months. Yeah, this is an old proposal. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Girls support girls, and guys, listen.
Guys support girls.
Well, thank you so much for winging it with us. And tune in next time for our next podcast with our co-ops that have replaced both of us. And we'll just check in and see how they're liking WUSA. So, yeah.